because it's my theory that all you really need to do is listen and respond. That's it.
Okay.
Just listen and respond. If you listen and respond, that's all you need to do for TV. It's nothing at all like film, where you have to work the text, shape and sculpt the moment. If you do that on camera, it ruins it. It looks like you're schmacting for the camera.
Okay.
So the deal is to just arrive and listen and respond. It's so much less than what we do for theater. So my theory is, I mean, I did it at a real audition. You don't have to do it at a real audition. Is that I memorized just my lines and went in to an audition and just listened and responded. I didn't even read the scene. And it was a really good audition. They were like, they went with a guy for the role, but the casting director was like, wow, that was really good. I was like, it was for House of Cards. It was a lot of text. And she's like, how'd you know the scene was about? I was like, I actually just memorized my lines and listened and responded. And the camera then caught me actually listening and responding because that's all I had.
Oh, that's fascinating.
It's the key. And part of it is that television and film writing is really the psychology of the character. We are watching the subconscious, right? And even an hour-long episodic, you're there to tell the story for the principals or to tell the story of the guest star victim, right? We're providing a lot of information because basically what an episodic is we have to have an entire Greek tragedy in 40 minutes. So there's a lot of information that has to get shuttled within the context of scenes with a lot of action. But there still has to be a lot of context provided. What's the background on this person? Every episodic you look at. Law and Order, they were arrested in 1992. They were on their way to the supermarket. They had a marriage that had been long for 10 years. You've got to know all that background story without it feeling like you're doing exposition. So a lot of the exposition has to be thrown away as if it's a matter of fact, right? We have to get that information to match how much visual information we're getting on television. So much storytelling is happening visually, but the characters actually have to know all of that is happening around them. It has to seem like that is their world and their history. So basically, television language is about the psychology of making your audience believe I've been living in this world for the last 20 years and it's totally real to me. And I had an amazing director. It was Bob Balaban, who directed me in Exonerated, but then he directed me in a movie called Bernard and Doris. And he's like, what you need to do is you need to create the reality of we're going into a board meeting with all the major board members and you're getting me prepared. And I'm your executive assistant and I've got to get all this stuff to you. And you know that every time we have this meeting, I screw up or the head of the board always nails me on finance and da-da-da-da-da. He's like, we have a 30-second scene. I need to see all that history in the scene. I was like, wow. He's like, that's called creating the reality. You're creating the reality of the relationship. You're creating the reality of the world, right? It's a different world. We are in a blue blood mansion. This is old money. You make $400,000 a year as an executive assistant. You live in a hotel next door to the office because you work 97 hours a week. Your boss flies you in for meetings. You are a big dog. He's like, we need to know that in 30 seconds. And all we have is 30 seconds. And I was like, whoa. He's like, it's in your psychology. You actually have to sculpt that. And he said to me, British actors do it really well. And Ray Fiennes is in this movie and Susan Sarandon's in this movie. And, you know, Susan and Ray had the script that day. Like, there's no getting the script a long time ahead. There just isn't. This was an HBO movie. And Ray Fiennes was absolutely mesmerizing. You believe that you were in 1942 and then again in 1980 something. From the moment he came into the frame. And he's like, that's sculpting a moment. I was like, well, where is that happening? He's like, in his mind. And I was like, huh? He's like, why do you love Patrick? What's his name? Jean-Luc Picard, Patrick Stewart on Star Trek. And I was like, because I actually believe he's in the future. I don't believe nobody else is in the future. Will, his first, number one, I wanted to kill him. I was like, what are you doing? What, are you doing a barbecue in your backyard before the Super Bowl? That's not this world. I just did not believe that he was in this world. I was like, well, what is it that Patrick Stewart's doing? I mean, I actually asked him outside the doors when I went to see him on Broadway in The Tempest. I was like, I don't even know what you're doing in sculpting that world, but it's magnificent. And it was like, I am in a different world. Who would I be in this different world? I actually have to create that. And that's exactly what British actors do on stage. That's why when you see the RSC do All's Well That Ends Well, it's a completely different play than anything you've ever seen in the United States. I was like, what are they doing? They're sculpting the world of that time. Medieval, Black humor is in the air, people believing in demons, the church running everything and persecuting people, the plague is rampant. They are creating the reality of their world. In their mind's eye, they are actually in that place. They're not on stage. And because they shape it through their subconscious sort of crafting, we believe it. We are transported. It's why they do period stuff so well. And ours is sort of like, well, once you get past the cowboys, period stuff in America is pretty lame. I mean, you're basically like, no, they're on a sci-fi set in California. They're not in the past.